Welcome everybody to The Good and the Bad. My name is Mokwena. I am your host, and this show looks at one of the matches over the weekend where we can see what the teams did well and what they didn't do so well. This past weekend was an MTN 8 quarterfinal clash between Mamelodi Sundowns and Polokwane City. Let's look at what they did badly.
Number 5.
Manqoba's only been in charge of this team for a very short time. Manqoba has come out and said that he's trying to change the way that the team plays. They've held up the possession, they've played a very slow game, and he wants to bring in a fast-paced, dynamic Mamelodi Sundowns. And that's going to take time to implement, especially when players were getting so used to the chameleon of rulani. And I think we saw some of the growing pains in this past match versus Polokwane City. I think that Mamelodi Sundowns look great in the final third, but their build-up lacks a little bit of something. And I think a big deal of why this is happening is that a lot of these players are being asked to now play traditional roles. Kutsia is no longer a libero. Mudiba is no longer inverting from the left. He has to play as a midfielder. And what tends to happen with Mamelodi Sundowns in this more attacking system, this attacking scheme, is that the creative midfielders end up being too far high up the pitch, especially late in the game. And then what happens is it puts pressure on mokwena, libusa, and those type of players to become ball players and hold the ball. We saw how uncomfortable Dennis Onyango looked with the ball at his feet, and we saw that most times throughout the match, Sundowns, barring that first half, struggled to get the ball up into the dangerous areas that they'd shown would be very dangerous in the first half. So I think one of the big things that Sundowns has to look out for is going to be that build-up play.
Number 4.
The final third was incredible. But if there's one thing that Mamelodi Sundowns has been lacking even through the Rulani year, was that finishing. I think Peter Shalulile has lost that bit of his finishing because I feel as though they're asking him to do too much. I think he's being asked to trap the ball, he's been asked to facilitate the game, he's been asked to have control when he's really an in-box finisher. He's a guy that you pop a ball into the box and he gets to finish it. I think he's been struggling with that new adapted role ever since Rulani also came in and played him a certain way, and now it seems that Manqoba is going to play him in a similar way as well. Now, he was unfair, to be fair to him. He was very unfair with hitting the post twice during the game, and you can't blame a player for doing that. But if he continues on this drought, there's a guy there, a salesman, who might be able to take his spot. Then, of course, the other culprit for missing chances has to be Tashreeq Matthews. Tashreeq Matthews, I understand, plays more of a wider role traditionally, and maybe he doesn't have the finishing boots that he would need to have. He got 3 chances in the box where the ball was played into him, and he squandered all 3 of those chances, then disappeared later on in the game. Tash is young, and I guess he will get better, but I think the worrying factor for Mamelodi Sundowns is that when you look at that bench, that experienced, that expensive bench, they don't have somebody who can come in and play the finishing role for Matthews. Masego is not that finisher, Nku is not that finisher, even Tembazwani, who has played there last season a lot on the left-hand side of that front 3, often cutting back to a 10, he can't finish chances, as it showed later on when he skied his own chance. So I think Mamelodi Sundowns is going to need a finisher this season. I don't think they can go through another season where they create chances and don't take them, or they get late into games versus low blocks and they don't have a player who can get on the end of those crosses that they play and can make the most out of a little. So I think that's something they have to look out for.
Number 3.
Repeated actions is a theme that I always speak about. For those who watch the show that I have live every Monday to Thursdays at 7 p.m., for those who watch that show, you'll understand what I'm saying. Now, when I talk about repeated actions, I talk about things that we see either that the team has come in with a plan and they keep doing those things. So if you think about the Polokwane Mamelodi Sundowns game, Mamelodi Sundowns came into that game and there was a ball that was being played by Mudiba, a little bit centrally over the defense, just a dinked ball over the defense that found Tash 3 times. You could tell that, they practiced that at the training ground. But Polokwane City, on the other hand, didn't have those type of patterns. Coach Mohafe said before the game that they'd want to play the first 15 minutes a little bit safe, and you'd start seeing Polokwane City come out of that shell after a time. Now, the reason why I bring this up is if there's one pattern that kept repeating itself and Polokwane City didn't take advantage of it, it was that Sundowns defended with a 2. It was Kutsia, it was Lebusa. Super slow players who had been shown out the few times that Polokwane got out, who had been shown to be lacking that pace when Chauke got out and Apolis got out. Now, I would have loved to see Polokwane City go, you know what? We've seen it work once or twice. Let's keep playing that ball. We win the ball back, you play it out. Mamelodi Sundowns is playing a very high line. Play the ball out early, get Apolis on the ball, get Chauke on the ball, have them outrun that defense, and cause some havoc. They had plenty of chances to do that, and you find Apolis playing deep. So what I'm looking for from not just Polokwane City, but from PSL teams across the board is, what are you guys doing at practice every day? Can you recreate that thing? When we get onto the pitch, can I watch your game for 10-15 minutes and I can tell exactly what you're trying to do, and I can tell that you guys have prepared this for the other team? And also, when you start seeing problems, can you take advantage of them? Which takes me to my next point.
Number 2.
Situational awareness is such an important thing in the game. What happens when something changes? You know, Mamelodi Sundowns last season struggled towards the end with a low block system. They struggled with teams sitting back and saying, you know what, Sundowns, we know you're going to have the possession, but you don't have teeth in terms of that attack of yours. We know that if we sit back, we're going to neutralize your Ribeiros, we're going to neutralize your Zwanes, we're not going to give them the space that they need, and you'll cycle the ball back over and over again, or maybe play crosses to players that, you know, aren't the right guys to get on the end of those balls. And what was interesting about watching Manqoba's Sundowns was they faced another low blockish type team, especially towards the end of the game, where Polokwane City was basically sitting back. And lo and behold, we saw some of the same exact mistakes that gave Rulani a tough time, right? We saw Shalulile getting pulled off. We saw a couple of players who are attacking midfielders get put on, and you watch them playing on the line of the defense. I think that is my one biggest gripe with Mamelodi Sundowns late in pressure games. They start taking all of their good technical players and letting them play almost as strikers. So you find Umshishi, one of the best players in tight spots in half spaces when he drops into the 10. You find him standing with the defense. You look at Ribeiro. At some point you find him also standing with the defense. And what really irks me, back to a point that I made earlier, what really irks me is that you have all of these technically gifted players, but you're watching Mokwena having to play the ball more. You're watching Mokwena having to play a final ball, things that he's never done before, right? Meanwhile, you have those guys. The other thing that I don't understand about Sundowns is this tendency to go wide versus the low block, which I guess is something that you would do to try beat it. But if you're playing balls back into the box, wouldn't you want a Shalulile there? Wouldn't you want some of your more recognized finishers right there in the box? Why have the end of games be midfielders? Themba Zwane, I don't think he can header a ball that well, and you're asking him to go and beat a defender and header a ball. You're asking Ribeiro, who we saw in the first half, very nice, he drops back in, he plays the ball. You're asking him to also stand with the line and wait for balls to be played in, crossed in, and hope that he can header it, and hope that it's a mistake by the defense. I hope that Mamelodi Sundowns can rectify that type of situation. But that is not the biggest situational problem that I had in that game.
Number 1.
Guys, it's simple. It's simple. Mamelodi Sundowns has used up all of their phases to make subs. You're allowed 5 subs, but you can only make it in 3s. So you can only do 2-2-1 or 1-1-3 or that type of thing. So they'd already made 3 sets of different substitutions at different times, meaning that for the rest of that 90, they couldn't make another change. So when Dennis Onyango got that red card, it meant that somebody had to step into goal up until extra time, where that extra sub kicks in. And what happened was that Musa Lebusa got into goal. Musa Lebusa, for those who don't know, is a defender. He's a full-time defender. Now, when I talk about situations, let me lay the table for you. It's 85 minutes. You have maybe 10 minutes left, 5 minutes of regulation time, 5 minutes of additional time before you get to extra time. You know that Sundowns is one man down. You know that the keeper is not a traditional keeper, is not a good keeper. And you know that if this 10 minutes ends, you're going to have to deal with a sub that's going to be made by Mamelodi Sundowns to bring in a proper keeper, Jody February, in extra time. I would have expected Polokwane City to say, you know what guys, there's 10 minutes, we've got nothing to lose. Let's bombard that box. The goal of that last 10 minutes should have been to get the ball as many times into the box. So can't be surprised when I see the Polokwane City players start playing the ball. You had not played the ball all game long. But now, nyaltunga, nyapasana, chawama 1-2. They're trying to do all of these fancy things. Instead of, hey, shoot at the goalkeeper who's not a goalkeeper. Shoot at the guy who's probably going to make a mistake. Shoot at the guy who's probably going to parry the ball recklessly for it to fall to somebody, maybe to finish. Maybe put the Sundowns defense under pressure, so much pressure that somebody makes a mistake. Do what Sundowns does to all of these other teams. You've got 10 minutes, and to be honest with you, if Polokwane City lost that game after doing that, nobody cares. Nobody was expecting Polokwane to win. And they decided to play it safe. There was a cross that was played in where Libusa came running out and he was saved by his defender who got there before him. And in my head again, I'm thinking, guys, you guys have to be professional players. You've played this game your whole life. That should be a weakness. That should be something you exploit. You have to make that last 10 minutes so uncomfortable for everyone. Sundowns in the same situation under Coach Rulani last year would throw in the kitchen sink and they'll just bombard the box, bombard until a defender slips, until a ball gets through, until something happens so that it doesn't go into extra time. Because an extra added situation there was that, guys, you're not going to go toe-to-toe with Mamelodi Sundowns for another 30 minutes. You're not going to be able to hold out with them. They will get stronger. Not to mention the fact that they'll be able to make 2 subs because they hadn't used all of their subs in the first instance. So I think situational awareness is something that PSL teams need to work on. What happens when we get a red card? What happens when they get a red card? What happens when I see that there's a slow defender, man? Left back taking. How can I take advantage of that? How do we see when there's a player who's angry? Maybe we learn some of the dark arts and put him into trouble. When are our teams going to learn those type of things so that they can win games like this? This, as some of the people who called in yesterday on my show said, this was Christmas. And you hardly ever get Christmas versus Mamelodi Sundowns, so you have to take your opportunities. But anyway, let's not dwell too much into the negative. Let's get into the good that we saw in the game.
Number 5.
Coach Mangoba is in a very tough spot. He's coming into a team where Coach Rulani had changed how they played, had instituted his chameleon, and now he's been asked with very little time to come in and revamp this team, to come in and play his football. And I think what was great about having Coach Motsepe win this game was that it lets him relax a little. I can only imagine the climate that he would be living in if they had lost this game to Polokwane City. I can only imagine what type of pressure he would have, playing this game and losing in the MTN 8. And there would be another trophy off of the table. He wouldn't be able to win that. And now the expectations become bigger and bigger and bigger. And you are now under pressure to go and perform. So I'm glad Mangoba Motsepe won. I'm glad that it's going to give him a little bit more room and space to be able to work with Romain Folds, work with Steve Kombela, work with the players and institute his style of play without having fans and pundits and all of those people breathing down his neck because he lost to Polokwane City a la Nasruddin Nabi at Kaizer Chiefs. So I think that was a good thing.
Number 4.
For the second week in a row, we've seen the quote-unquote big teams actually get some decent attendance. Lucas Moripe had a lot of fans. It wasn't just 57. We saw Orlando Stadium get fuller and fuller as the game went on, and maybe even more full if it wasn't for the parking issues last week. So I hope that this continues. I hope that this attendance and I hope that the fans coming out can continue and we can keep seeing this happening. I think it's really good to turn on the TV and get that FOMO, man. There's that FOMO. I'm in Pretoria. And even I was watching it on the TV thinking to myself, I'd love to get into my car. I'd love to call up some friends and let's go watch it at Ridgeville. Let's go to Loftus. Let's go to LC de Villiers. Let's go and enjoy football. So I'm glad that the Mamelodi Sundowns fans especially are rewarding that team. That team has done incredible things over the past few years. Last season they almost were unbeaten. They've won 7 league titles in a row. They consistently get to the semi-finals of the CAF Champions League. They're consistently in the finals of our local competitions. They're going into the Club World Cup. There's so many things that club does so well. And it's really good to see fans turn up for them. And I hope long may it continue for the rest of the season.
Number 3.
How good was Ribeiro in that first half? How comfortable was he coming back and getting the ball, beating a man, creating chances, creating space? I think that jersey number 10 looks really good on him. And I think he's going to be one of the better players in this season. I think if Mamelodi Sundowns can keep him fit, last season he got injured, but if Mamelodi Sundowns can keep him fit, I think they've got somebody who can do what Themba Zwane does on the left-hand side, on the right. So whatever Themba Zwane is doing on the left-hand side, they have somebody who can do it on the right-hand side and is very comfortable closing that gap between the attackers and the midfielders. At times, there's huge spaces there in the Mamelodi Sundowns midfield, and he's the one who gets the ball. Minus is a player, gets you a foul, does those little things that give Aubrey Mudiba space to put in a ball to Tash. Things that disorientate defense enough that they don't see the dummy. They see the dummy run from Shalulile, but they don't see Tash open up for a chance. So I think he's going to be one of the more important players in this team. And it's going to be interesting to see if Manqoba can get that goal scoring that Rulani got from him. Because the way I see it, if we're talking pure finishers in the past season or so, I'd say Ribeiro's one of the best, if not the top player at Mamelodi Sundowns when it comes to finishing. And I think he brings so many different skills to the game. I think he brings so many different things that are going to make Manqoba very happy. If you remember Ukosh Manqoba, uthanda abonjabulo mancane, uthanda abafana besithende. He loves that thing, that play. And I think Ribeiro fits the bill for that. And I'm expecting a very big season from him.
Number 2.
Last season, December last year, Mamelodi Sundowns had won all of their games, and I believe they were unbeaten. They were unbeaten and they had not drawn. So they'd won every single game that they played, up to the point where they faced Cape Town City and Polokwane City. And everybody thought that maybe it's a fluke that Polokwane City plays very well versus Mamelodi Sundowns. But we have to take our hats off and give credit to Coach Mahafe for being able to hold Mamelodi Sundowns down again, hold them down in a competitive game, and make sure that the score is 0-0. I think in the league, one of the things that could happen in this game, in the fixture, is exactly what happened last time. They could leave with a point. They could go to Lucas Moripe and leave with a point. Remember, the goal that was scored in this game came in extra time. So for 90 minutes, I think Mamelodi Sundowns was a little bit frustrated with Polokwane. Now, I will admit, Mamelodi Sundowns had a lot of chances that they should have taken. They should have won that game in the first half. But if you don't win it in the first half, then you're going to face teams that are going to shut up shop. I spoke about Pirates a couple of, last week. I spoke about Pirates and how, in a league game, Gavin Hunt shuts the door, puts in an extra defender, and takes his point from Orlando. I think Polokwane City has the capability to do that to Sundowns, but what I enjoyed was that very few times do you see a team actually give Mamelodi Sundowns some worry. There were some chances there that Polokwane City had themselves where they broke free. And I think the big lesson that Polokwane City has to learn is, guys, you're only going to get 3-4 chances versus Mamelodi Sundowns. So you need to finish them. Those 3-4 chances, some of them aren't even clear-cut shots. Some of them was Lord Kambala getting the ball, running up, running, instead of crossing the ball back to a player who was open inside the box. Playing the ball back to a player who was running in and could have taken a touch past the defender and scored. You have to take those chances if you are ever going to beat Mamelodi Sundowns. Supersport, as I used the example, found out the hard way in their match versus Mamelodi Sundowns that I believe they lost 2-0 last season. Supersport got excited. They did everything right, but they got too excited and they were caught out once or twice. I believe it was a Ribeiro free kick. Somebody played a free kick in, a dinked free kick, and Ribeiro finished it as one of the goals. And they lost 2-0. A same Supersport that had 2 or 3 chances that they should have taken through Uzugamanje, if I'm not mistaken. So a key lesson that PSL teams are going to have to take when they face Mamelodi Sundowns is you're only going to get 3 or 4 chances. You're only going to get into the box 3 or 4 times. Make it work.
Number 1.
He told us that he was going to play exciting football. He told us that he wants to transition. He told us that he wants to be exciting, man. He doesn't want 1,000 passes. He doesn't want to hold the ball too much. I criticized the build-up play of Mamelodi Sundowns at the beginning of this video, but I'm going to end it off with saying the final third play, the way that it's coordinated, the way that they found each other in that first half was incredible. You saw Abo Mudiba getting a lot more freedom. You saw Abo Tesh getting out-and-out chances. Think about how many times you watch PSL matches, whether it be Pirates, whether it be Sundowns, whether it be Stellenbosch. Think about how many times you see out-and-out chances where you can tell they worked on this in training. Bam, 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 Tesh is free. Can't trap the ball, but he's free to take it. Shalulile is hitting the post twice. Ribeiro is playing out of his skin. Mudiba is looking like one of the best number 10s we've ever had in the country, even if it was for the 60-70 minutes that he played. I think once they get the build-up play right, Mangoba ball is going to be exciting. I think Mangoba ball is going to be goal ball. Mamelodi Sundowns last season, I believe, had gone into an African type of game, an African continental type of game. I think that Mamelodi Sundowns, out of necessity, they had to evolve this. But out of necessity, they'd learned how to play like an Ahly. Get your 1-0. Get your 1-0, manage the game, go home. Don't expend too much energy. Keep it here. You know, keep an even keel until the other team makes a mistake. If you watch most of the games, Mamelodi Sundowns, one of their key strengths was being stable under pressure, calm under pressure. The only problem that we started seeing later on in the season is that if you don't have a plan B and you don't know how to attack and you don't know how to open up those spaces and you don't know how to deconstruct a low block or a mid block and you don't have a tactic for going to score, your luck will run out eventually. Their luck tends to run out by semi-finals where those teams are too disciplined to be giving away lucky goals. And now you're actually going to have to play. And I'm so excited with Mangoba ball because it gave us chances. It gave us an exciting game. Now, the only weakness that Mangoba ball has for me is keeping a back two that is traditional and keeping a back two that is slow. They're going to be caught out a lot if they play that game, right? If they advance both fullbacks up and you have your midfielders pushing up into advanced spots, then you only have Mokwena, let's say Mokwena, Lebusa and Kutsia as your cover. You will get hurt by speedier players. If not for Reyners allegedly coming to Mamelodi Sundowns, I'd imagine that he would cause a lot of problems for that Sundowns team. Him and Van Veek with that 2-man counter-attack would cause a lot of problems. But other than that, I think I trust to Coach Mangoba. I think he's going to figure it out. I think 10 games from now, we'll be seeing a well-oiled, attacking Mamelodi Sundowns team. And I think we'll see more of those first half chances, that first half play that they had to create a lot more chances. So I'm excited to see what Mamelodi Sundowns under Coach Mleti for Khoza and Coach Steve, how it looks like. Coach Foltz, let me be respectful. Coach Foltz, how that looks like in the future. So I think it bodes well for Mamelodi Sundowns. And yeah, that has been the good and the bad. Coach Pitso Mosimane, up and coming coach. Coach, great balas, man. Great balas, man. Get some cojones. Sometimes you have to play to win. Sometimes you've got all of the tools, but if you are not ready to push through, those players are not going to push through and the results are not going to push through. Sundowns, Pirates, yes, they're scary teams and you'll lose more often than not. But if we don't test them, if we don't count on coaches like you with Boapolis in hand, with Bochauke in hand, with that great defense of yours in hand, to go and give us results. This is how Mamelodi Sundowns win these games. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Good and the Bad. I've been your host, George Mokwena. If you like this and you want to see more of this type of content, I urge you to click on that subscribe button and tell me what was the good and the bad that you saw from this game there in the comments, and share it, guys. Share it. We're trying to grow as broadcasters who have our own YouTube channels and things. So your support is really amazing. Those who have supported up to this point, thank you so much. You have no idea what it does for us who are hustling, who are trying to get on the train. Guys, it's been incredible. I'll see you guys tonight, Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. I have my live show where you guys can jump in and I can have conversations with you. Tonight is going to be a review show where you're going to speak to me and we're going to have a chat about what we saw in that game. But more often than not, during the week, we have big conversations. We've spoken about transfers, we've spoken about scouting, we've spoken about stadiums, parking, we've spoken about really, really, really big topics in South African football, and I want to grow this, and that's up to you guys to help. I also have a video to do with how much it actually costs to run a PSL team. Please check it out. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you.